Hello everyone, this is Jim Nix, and in this video, we're going to discuss workflow ideas and inspiration for cityscape images. I'll walk you through a full edit of this photo, showing how we go from the before image to the after image. And of course, I'll share some of my favorite filters for use on cityscape images. So let's go ahead and get started. This is the skyline of New York City, and as you can see, it's a great view, but the photo needs some lighting adjustments, and I'd like to restore the sunset colors to the sky. So I'll begin with the Develop filter. To add a filter, I just click on Add Filters, I choose Develop, and I can close the filter menu by clicking the same Add Filters button. First, I'm going to use the Lens tab in order to correct the slight distortion to the image due to using a wide-angle lens. I'm going to go ahead and drag that slider slightly to the right. It's not a huge change, but I do think it helps. And now I'll go to the Adjust tab in order to make some edits. I'll start with temperature and tint in order to bring back some of that sunset look to the image. I'm going to take them both slightly to the right. Now I'm going to add a little bit of contrast and a little bit of clarity as well in order to give the image a little bit more depth. Now I'll open the filter catalog and choose Brilliance and Warmth. And once again, close the filter catalog. With this filter, I'm going to give the photo a nice bump in both the vividness slider and the warmth slider. Again, I'm restoring some of that sunset feel to the photo, and this filter is helping me achieve that. The next filter I'm going to add is the Dodge and Burn filter. It's located right here in the Professional category. And I'm choosing this one because I'd like to lighten the foreground a bit in order to bring a little bit more life to that section of the photo. It's a little too dark for my taste. So once you have the filter in your filter panel, just click on Start Painting, and then ensure that you've selected either Lighten or Darken. I'm going to stick with Lighten here. And then choose your brush size and strength, and then you can begin painting in the adjustment. I'm going to increase the size of my brush slightly since I'm going to be using this across the entire foreground. And I think I'll leave strength at 50%. Now that I'm ready, I can just paint this lightening adjustment across the foreground in order to brighten that part of the image. I think that ought to do it. Once I'm satisfied, I just click Done. If you'd like to compare before and after, just click that eyeball icon and you can see the before is much darker and the after has been lightened quite a bit. Now I'd like to make some adjustments to the colors in the image, so I'm going to use the powerful Split Toning filter for that. I'm going to choose Add Filters, get Split Toning, and then close the filter catalog again. Split toning allows you the flexibility of adjusting tones in the highlights and shadows separately, so it gives you great control over the look that you're creating. Beginning with the highlights, I choose Hue first, and I'm going to stay in the reds here with just a slight adjustment. And then I'm going to move the saturation slider until the highlights have that pinkish color that I'm going for. Now onto the shadows, I'm going to move the Hue slider further down the spectrum here into the blue range. I think about there. And then once again, I'm going to lift the saturation for the shadows until I get the look that I'm going for. And it's just a minor bump in saturation, something about like that. Let me show you before and after for split toning. There's the before, there's the after. You can see we brought back some nice color to the image. There are two more minor adjustments I'd like to make to this photo, so I'm going to choose two more filters to help me achieve my final vision for the shot. So I'll click Add Filters to open the filter catalog, and I will select Adjustable Gradient, which is in Utility, and I will choose Structure as well, which is in Essential at the top. I'll close the catalog so I can adjust these filters. The Adjustable Gradient filter is very powerful, and it gives you control over exposure, contrast, vibrance, and warmth for both the top and bottom sections of the photo, but you also have the added benefit of selecting the orientation so you can decide where to divide the top from the bottom. First, you choose Set Orientation by clicking on that. And as you can see, you can move the gradient within the frame up and down, and you can also expand or contract the gradient zone. I'm going to move it to about there, and that's because I primarily want to just lighten the foreground. I think that's about right. Just click Set Orientation, and that's in place. Now, since I'm interested in the bottom of the photo, I select the Bottom tab in the filter and then move the Exposure slider until the foreground is light enough. I think that looks good. Here's a before and after. My final step is to add structure to the foreground of the image which will increase perceived detail and make the photo stand out. So I adjust the slider a little bit. I'm not going to add a lot. And then I click on the brush icon so that I can filter mask this into the shot. Just click there, choose brush. Check your brush size, make sure that you're in paint, and check your softness and opacity. And then when you're ready, you can just go ahead and paint this adjustment into the foreground of the image. You can always click the eyeball icon to check the mask. I need to do a little bit of touch-up, but I think that looks pretty good. You can also zoom in, and I'll turn off the filter. There's the before, and there's the after. You can see it brings up some of the perceived detail that I mentioned. I'm going to go ahead and return this to Fit to Screen. Once you decide that you're satisfied with your mask, just click on Done, and you'll be returned to the main filter menu. Now, the last thing that I notice about the photo is that the buildings have picked up a little too much blue. That's an easy fix with the HSL slider. So once again, I'm going to go open the filter menu. I'm going to grab HSL and then close the filter menu. HSL gives you fine control over your colors, which can be really handy in a situation like this. I just make sure that I'm on the saturation tab, and then I reduce the blue saturation. I'm going to take it down significantly, something about like that. Of course, that saturation reduction has affected the entire photo, so once again, I need to use a filter mask. Just as we did with structure in the last step, I'm going to apply this only to the foreground. But instead of having to repaint it, I can actually just copy the mask from the structure adjustment since I'm using it in exactly the same area. So go to Structure, click on the brush icon, and then choose Brush. If you look in the drop-down menu under Mask, you'll see an option for Copy. Go ahead and click that, and then click Done to close that filter mask for structure. Now under HSL, click on Brush and the brush word, and then under Mask, you'll see you have an option for Paste. You've now just pasted the mask from the structure filter to the HSL filter, and by clicking on the eyeball, you can see that mask. That's applied the HSL or the blue saturation reduction specifically to that mask in the foreground of the photo. If you're happy with that, just click Done. We basically just took the saturation down in the foreground of the photo. Now at this point, I like how the photo looks, but I think it needs to be straightened slightly, and I want to apply a crop to give it a little bit more impact. So in the Tools menu, I select Crop, and my image is opened in the Crop tool. Straightening is first, so if I position my mouse on the outer edge, you can see that little double arrow. Just click and drag, and you can straighten your image that way. I think something like that looks good. And now that it's straight, I'm going to click on the drop-down menu for aspect ratio, and I'm going to choose the 16:9 crop, which is sort of a cinematic look. So once I click on that, it applies it automatically to the photo. Of course, you can drag your photo around inside the crop window in order to position it just right. Once I'm satisfied with my crop, I just click on Done, and I'll be returned to my main editing screen. Let me show you a before and after of this image. There's the before, and there's the after, and here's a split screen before and after. Before and after. And that's the entire workflow for this cityscape image. It started out as a nice view of a beautiful skyline, but it lacked overall punch, and most of the color was lost. Using various filters in Luminar, I was able to really bring it back to life. Thanks for watching.